Welcome to the Torque and Horsepower Podcast. I'm your co-host, Eric Herbert.
And I'm your co-host, Alex Stursa. Who do we have in here today, Eric?
Greg Thiessen.
That's right.
Our special guest. The Lotus guy, Greg's Race Car Parts, Nevada native.
Yep. Born and raised.
What else can I say? Do you want to start with a brief history? Born and raised in Nevada City? No,
in Reno, North Reno.
Oh, Reno.
Yep, born and raised, Rancho Haven area.
Rancho Haven.
Yeah.
Rancho Haven.
Yeah, kind of out in the sticks, but still in Reno. Born and raised out there. Been here ever since. I'm a lifer. Nothing, no plans to go anywhere else as of yet. We talk about it long term, but we're here. We're planted. Went to high school, did some college here, and then kind of dropped out of college, per se. Did like a year and a half and figured that was good.
Where did you go for Tech Institute? Did you go to like UTI or TMCC or?
TMCC auto. They had
for
like
automotive
auto program there. Yeah.
Oh, they did. They don't anymore, do they?
I don't know if they do anymore. It was a really well set up shop down on Edison Way. They had a big building with, probably like a 8 or 10 bay shop. Lots of junk cars there to work on. They'd get donated cars.
Right.
And that's kind of what turned me off of that. Really was like they're really geared towards and really push you to go work for like a dealership.
Right.
And I kind of decided I didn't really want to work on other people's junk was kind of my thing. I was like, more like into nice stuff or fixing things up, not, doing clutches in 92 Ford Rangers.
Yeah, don't blame you.
Yeah, maintenance type stuff is terrible.
Yeah, your basic stuff's fine, but doing some of the things they were gearing you towards there wasn't for me, so that's kind of why I left. And then worked at some motorcycle shops, RMS, and then went to...
When did you work at RMS?
Back in the, I call it the Paul Mudd days.
Oh, that's my ex-brother-in-law.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love that guy.
Oh, yeah.
He's a fucking stud.
He's a great dude.
Yeah.
Obviously Paul and Ziggy have been there forever, the owners. And then, worked there with Paul for quite a while. And then it was a fun, interesting job for sure. As a teenager.
Yeah,
it was
for sure.
Good times. There was never a dull moment there.
No.
Then worked there, and then I went to Big Valley after that, and then worked in parts there.
So did you ever ride bikes or anything, or you just that was an avenue you wanted to pursue?
Yeah, where I grew up racing and riding dirt bikes since I was about probably 10, 11 years old.
Right on.
So that's kind of how I knew all those guys and kind of got the job there, and then Big Valley, we bought bikes from Big Valley.
Right. Okay.
Worked in parts there and then in sales and then kind of bounced around from there with some various jobs. We did, I probably would have stayed there much longer, but sales kind of went down the tube with motorcycles at one point, and then it was like feast or famine with sales, selling motorcycles.
Right.
So, it went downhill, and then I kind of moved on. And then after getting hurt numerous times racing dirt bikes, broken arms and collarbones and everything else, I kind of got much more into cars. I was always into cars, but transitioned into cars much more so after that.
Makes sense.
So, and then then eventually worked Speed Technologies once upon a time. For John Hara.
I forgot you worked at Speed Technology.
Yeah.
Weren't you the tire guy?
I was the tire guy. That was my main job, was taking care of all the tires for all of the rigs. It was like 4 Pro 2s, a Pro 4, and then, 10 Super Lights I think we had.
They ran like 18 cars.
Yeah, it was not. I think we had 3 or 4 semis, plus support trucks that would go to every race, Arizona, Vegas, Utah.
Yeah, when they did the Lucas series.
Yeah, we did some testing there, but I never did, Mustang, I'm talking.
Oh, you never did that track?
I never went out there. We did some testing. That was kind of in the infancy of that track, was about the time I was leaving Speed Tech.
Yeah, but you were at the tail end when it wasn't going to be around longer.
Yeah, the writing was on the wall for sure.
Do you remember Pete Gebhardt, the fabricator? Fat guy, messed up thumbs.
The main fab guy when I was there was Ray Cunningham.
Oh.
If you know Old Man Ray, he's hell of a fabricator.
So Pete was right after Ray.
Yeah, and then Mark Leverett was there prior.
Okay, yeah.
That was kind of when it was still on the ranch.
Yeah, Hera must have the most addictive personality of all time, because my sister used to train his cutting horses back in the day, and then he would just find the next thing, and that he was all in.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because he do shifter cars for a while too, and everything. All kinds of shit.
Anything with a motor, pretty much. He's all about.
Oh yeah,
it.
like the biggest boats, the fastest boats,
right?
Every off-road car.
When I first started working there, he had some sort of I don't know, I guess he called a cigar boat or some sort of a race boat up on Tahoe.
Yeah.
And it hadn't been driven or used in who knows how long. And there was a story about somebody staying there with it or staying on it, and the thing, like, I don't know, bilge plugs or something went bad. The guy woke up in the middle of the night, and the thing's like halfway in Tahoe, was sinking. And just, that was kind of the story of all of his stuff, is it was like, use it, and then find the next coolest thing, and then whatever it was just kind of went to the wayside.
Right.
Yeah, that was a easy come, easy go thing, and personality has a lot to do with that. I don't have a whole lot of sympathy. He still ended up okay. He's not homeless.
Right.
Yeah, I think he's doing fine. He still gets some.
He's on to doing BMW projects, I think, right? I think he's like all on those M2s. Is that what it is?
I don't know.
Last I heard, a friend of mine.
They were making billet parts.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, John, owns one of his old M2s.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if he's still doing that. I know he had opened
I know
a
he was
machine
doing
shop
that like
or something.
3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah,
he was doing
opened a shop in Carson, I think.
Oh,
He had a machine
really?
shop down
Alex,
there.
will you grab that hair? It's pissing me off.
What hair?
It's not Greg's. It's stuck in his coaster.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, look at that. That's definitely.
I don't know whose that is. Might have been one of my pubes.
I was gonna say, that looks like it was from the Bunny Ranch. Yeah. That was looking like an extension hair.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
This will come home with you. You got to be
Yeah.
careful.
my sister-in-law she is a little left.
This is not where I thought that was going.
To put it nicely, and this is just a side note. She got me, instead of a MAGA hat,
Yeah.
it's red and it's embroidered, "Make American Great Again."
Oh, American? A little pube beard, dude?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pube toupee.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Are you serious? Do you want me to wear that?" It looks like "Make America Great Again" until you actually read it, and I don't want to explain that to people.
I would, for sure.
It's a prosthetic.
Like, how much time do you
muff.
have? I got a minute. Yeah.
It's a wig for your Netherlands.
Yeah.
So back to the background, I guess.
Yeah.
So after Speed Tech, where did you go after that?
Gosh, what did I do? I worked I had some little jobs between working motorcycle shops and Speed Tech, and then was there for a while. Like I was saying, the writing was on the wall there, so we kind of started looking. I was like, they got accountants and stuff in here every day. I don't think it's going to last much longer.
Something's happening.
Yeah. Something's going down here pretty soon. And then they did lay off a bunch of people or fired a bunch of people. So I went and worked at a shop that I will not name in Sparks, just because I'm not a very big fan after working there. Worked there for a while. It was cool. Learned a lot. But it was not how I roll, like how things are operated. So went from there to started my powder coat business. Did it on the side, kind of shoestring budget, bought some cheap equipment, started doing some little stuff for myself, little stuff for friends, and then kind of created an actual, made it a legit business.
But you hustled.
Yeah, it was a shoestring business and our shoestring budget business that I started from scratch. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I got 50 grand, let's start a powder coating business. It was like, I might, I don't know, I got 5 grand in the bank, let's buy some equipment.
Oh yeah.
It was an idea that I was like, just ran with it.
But the drive got you there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
You hustled with powder and you did a good job.
I mean, like with limited resources, definitely. I mean, I was there, one-man band, day in and day out for the first year. I rented a place down on Freeport, little, I don't know, 750 square foot place. It was like a little dungeon, like very bad lighting, powder coating, like I didn't have like a super legit spray booth. So powder coating's just stuck on the sheetrock. I have like,
hell yeah.
You'd laugh if I have like made a, what is it, like masonite or like the, fiberboard.
Yeah.
Made a 2x4 frame fan like box fan
Booth.
spray booth.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It worked.
It got the job done. You just create a negative airspace, and
Exactly.
and then I built my own oven. I built it in my garage at my rental that I was living at, and then moved it down there. And then in between all of this, me and my girlfriend at the time, we bought a house together. So it was like make it or break it. She had a good job. She's a dental hygienist, so she like kind of had the bills covered. But if there was, I got champagne taste on a beer budget with car stuff and everything else. So it's like, oh man, I need to make some extra money to buy this for my car or do this or whatever. So whatever I was making was kind of supposed to go to the bills and then, fun money. So yeah, but it was just,
but it was worth something when you sold it, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I grew the business, had a pretty good, ended up with a pretty decent reputation, and was doing work for MSM and some Martis Camp builds and a bunch of stuff after we expanded into a better shop and bigger shop, better equipment. And I was constantly trying to, buy more equipment and expand it. But yeah, and then eventually I was doing some work for some guys. A buddy of mine and his dad owned Nature's Bakery. They made the fig bars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're world famous fig bars. They had been in the bakery business forever, and then they came up with that product, and it just exploded. So they were.
Is that where you went next?
Yeah. So he had me paint powder coating some equipment for him, and then he's like, "Hey, we're starting this. We're going to do our own shop. We're going to have our own CNC equipment. I'd like to do powder coating, fabrication," and it was all just building equipment for their bakery,
right?
And just for gearing up for their expansion. So, so that he kind of, it was kind of a, like, I don't know, it was greener pasture kind of thing. Like, oh, it's grass is greener there. Maybe I'm working my butt off here. I could keep doing what I'm doing, and maybe it's the unknowns with your own business when you're small or just scary, I guess. So yeah, then I sold the powder coating business to a friend of mine, dirt bike friend, and then moved on to working for those guys. So it was just a big snowball effect, I guess you could call it.
I wouldn't think less of yourself because you started on a shoestring, and you had the drive to grind it out and make it what it was. I see a lot of guys roll in with like $2 million and they're like, we're gonna start a machine shop, and like 18 months later, there's no machine shop there anymore.
Oh, that's how it is. We have a company called Mater, and they're out of Australia. They're huge. They're probably like the world's largest independent company that does like heavy equipment repair. They came in, they announced they're coming in, they made this huge fucking deal. All their guys are fucking trashed, and their company that they've been kicked out everywhere. Like they have nobody left. Like that's exactly what happened. They're like, we're fucking here, and everybody's like, cool.
And they didn't make it.
They didn't. Yeah, I mean, they're still around, but they're definitely not what they were, and their name is so bad now that they can't do anything. Like they're known as the guys. Like if you need bodies, fucking call them up. But other than that, you're getting bodies.
But not mechanics.
And don't get me wrong. There's probably some good ones that work for them, but overall, they're known for just bodies. Like if you need extra help, they probably have a guy for you. But other than that, you don't call them for anything you actually need.
Again, I don't know.
And they came in with an unlimited budget, like hundreds of.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
It didn't matter. Yeah, but
it does.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't give a shit and like just throwing money at it doesn't fix it.
No.
You have to be a little more creative when you're on a tight budget and you come up with
and
some
you
cool
have
stuff.
to work, and then you're like, ooh, this is a good idea. Oh, that was a bad idea, and you immediately learn from your mistake,
Yep.
or when you made a good decision, you're like, ooh, that worked.
Right.
We're gonna do that again.
Yep. Totally. Yeah, you make a mistake and it hurts you in the pocket, directly in the pocketbook. So you definitely don't make the same mistake twice when you have your own small business.
Not when your own coins involved.
No.
Yeah. Nobody likes losing money like
you
that.
Try not to. Yeah. Try not to.
Yeah, and it goes for everything.
You were doing Greg's race car parts.
Yeah, when did all that start?
You were doing that when you were doing Fine Line.
No, I started
it.
I started it when I was working at the bakery shop, actually.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
for Nature's Bakery.
Yeah, so worked there. We were there for, I don't know, a year and a half, 18 months, something like that. during that time, we had a lot of freedom there. We were like, hey, you can use the equipment, just kind of cover your own stuff. If you're buying material or whatever, make sure you pay for it, or you pay the owners for it. But yeah, I bought while I was there. I had a pretty decent salary when I was there, so it was cool. I had a nice steady paycheck every month. And I bought a 06 Lotus Elise when I was there. And I had driven a 06 or 07 Exige years prior, and that's kind of what got me into Lotuses. I drove it over in Sparks, just putted around, and that got me interested, and I've always loved those things. And I finally got the wife talked into it, and she's like, yeah, that's way cool. Why don't you have one of those instead of, I think I had a RX-7 I was working on at the time. Right. And, or no, RX-8, sorry. And I was like, we saw one driving one day, and she's like, why don't you get one of those? Don't you like that? And I was like, yeah. So we ended up selling the RX-8, made a deal, flew to Texas, and drove it back on Valentine's Day. She went there with me, and we drove all the way from El Paso to Las Vegas in one day.
That's a long hit.
In that little tiny, tiny.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you fit in that car?
You have to fold yourself up.
Take the front seat out and ride in the drive in the back.
You like a car enough, you'll fit in it.
That's right.
So
you drive with your knees.
That's what we say about Peterbilts. Looking cool ain't easy. Like, the cabs fucking suck, but they do look good. Yeah.
Never been in one. So.
Oh yeah, there's no fucking room in them.
Huh,
yeah,
you wouldn't think that in a big rig like that.
No, there's no room in it. You can reach across like this and touch the passenger door.
Oh, that's what? Like that's a Lotus Elite.
Yeah.
No,
you get in like a F-750 cab or a Freightliner cab, you could do Pilates in that bitch. We're not having one of them. I can guarantee you that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. The taller you are, the more you sit on the floor, so your knees could come back instead of into the dash. Yeah.
Huh. I had no idea.
Yeah. That was a funny story. When we drove it back, we got to Vegas, and it was like we went through 2 or 3 time zones between Texas and Arizona and Nevada. We had no idea what time it was when we got there. And then we roll in there, and it's Valentine's Day, and I don't think we even, we're so excited about the car.
It didn't register.
It didn't register. You're like, oh, we probably should have booked a room ahead of time. Because we get there, we start calling when we're rolling into, Henderson area. And it's like, no, we're booked out for Valentine's Day. So we ended up getting a suite for I don't know, some ridiculous amount of money. It was the only place we could find to sleep in Vegas. And we were there for probably 6 hours.
Right.
Got up, and I was like, we ended up going to some random Cars and Coffee, which was kind of cool.
Oh, there you go.
And then drove it back. But that's kind of what started all the Lotus shenanigans. Got that, made some Lotus friends here in town. And then things kind of snowballed from there. Started, they're like, hey, you should, you run a shop. You should, or you help work at a shop. You should make this, or have you thought about that? And I'm looking at upgrades myself for the car, and I'm like, man, that's pretty expensive for what it is. I could make that or make a better version of it for cheaper. And then I had welding and we were using somebody else for water jet and laser cutting at the time, but I could get our deal on all of that fabrication stuff for pretty affordable price. And then it just kind of came up with a couple products, and I was like, man, this is pretty cool. Eventually I started making more money selling stuff out of my office at my house than I was at my day job.
Right.
So that's kind of what
that's when it's time.
Yeah, it took off. And then they ended up shutting down the shop. They had sold a portion of the company, board of directors formed, and then they were like, yeah, we don't really need these guys. So a couple days before Thanksgiving, whatever year it was, that was 10 years ago or so now, 9 or 10 years ago.
Everyone got the axe.
Yeah, they just said, yep. They called me up to the corporate office here in town and said, yep, today was your last day. So
oh, cool, thanks.
Yeah,
appreciate
cool.
that.
Happy Thanksgiving.
So do I get Thursday and Wednesday off? Is that how we're?
So I can I'll take next week off too.
Yeah.
Any severance?
I think they gave me like a month's salary, which I mean it was something.
Right.
It was something, but I was like, man, I kind of felt like I was done dirty because I sold my business and went there, and I was like thinking of all this hypotheticals. I'm like, what if my business would have taken off? And whatever. But it's like, yeah, it's water under the bridge.
Right.
It was a little bit of, in the moment I was probably pissed off, but in the long run I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then it was make or break it with either.
So that's when you had to put your head down.
Yeah, it's the same thing again with the powder coating shop, but with either doing the Lotus parts, and I'm like, I'm making decent money doing this, but if I'm going to expand, then I'm going to have overhead. I was just like selling stuff out of my office at my house. Started a website and started just selling stuff on the Lotus forums. So, yeah, it was either find another job, and I did apply at a couple places, had some interviews, and then just kind of like, I think I'm just going to go for it. And the wife's nervous about stuff like that. She's, she wants to feel safe and secure,
right,
money wise and everything else. So, but yeah, then it just kind of went from there with the Lotus stuff anyway.
And so it's got to be kind of a niche market, right? There's not a ton of Lotuses out there, but is there?
No,
okay.
It totally is.
Okay,
it's totally
but if you have the right stuff,
yeah, it's a niche market.
Yeah.
There's like four main vendors, I would say, in the U.S. And then there's some people that make some little things or, sell some random stuff here and there. But there's like four main vendors for like modern Lotuses, like 2005 and newer release Exige, Evora, and now the Amira.
Okay.
So, I don't know. I'd like to think that just kind of I carved my share out of the niche with.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
With customer service really was all it boiled down to.
Right.
Because not everybody I have a pretty good customer service background, so I think it kind of played into it. But yeah, I got into making some parts that people wanted at some better prices or just stuff that wasn't out there. Yeah.
Well, especially it may be a niche market, but if nobody else offers it, then you're the guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as long as people, word of mouth. I mean, I've never really spent not even really $1 on advertising besides sponsoring events.
Right.
I've never run Facebook ads or, done any of that stuff ever. It's all just, like I said, so you definitely know it's a niche community when it's like that.
Right.
So it's just, word of mouth and people, one guy buys it and then he shows up at a car meet or a track day or whatever, and his buddies see it and then they order it on Monday or Tuesday. You know? So it's been cool. In that regard.
You probably get to know your customers a little bit like that too, because it's not just everybody's buying it.
Yeah. I would say now with some of the newer, there's kind of a newer crowd that's kind of come in with the Lotus community with the Amira coming out this year in the U.S. anyway. Lots of new faces, lots of new people. So I don't really, it's like new customers almost daily or every other day.
Yeah.
But there's still a ton of customers that, gosh, they've probably bought stuff from me pretty much since day one.
Right.
There's a few that still have their Lotus, or they've gone from an Elise to an Evora or whatever, and they're buying stuff. Even if it's just brake pads or something.
Right.
So
do you sell everything for the car? What do you sell?
A little bit of everything. I started with some little, like our very first product was a strut that hold up the rear hatch on an Elise.
Oh, okay.
So just like a modern car, like the shock that holds up the rear hatch. I came up with a little kit. There was one that was like an aluminum kit that you open it up and slide it. We got some.
God damn it, Herbert!
I don't know. I'm like, what is that? I'm like, what is that
fine.
Noise?
It's because he's so tall.
Yeah.
Herbert looks tall.
He needs more cable.
You're good.
So yeah, I started with a little hatch strut kit that we call it. That was the very first thing, and then some grill kits and some other random bits. But then it kind of got into, I got in with some companies and like wholesale accounts, and we sell brake rotors and brake pads and everything from that all the way up to aero stuff and carbon fiber parts. I've developed and come up with as we've grown. A bunch of different carbon parts.
Okay.
Do a lot of sheet metal parts with some, companies local cut the parts, and then powder coating and, a little bit of everything. So like all of my backgrounds all kind of
met together.
Yeah, kind of
that's cool,
meshed
though.
together. Yeah, with the powder coating thing and with fabrication and then automotive and customer service stuff from working.
He's using Send Cut Send.
I don't know. Maybe
Are
a
you?
couple
Are you
times.
fucking
yeah.
using Senka sand?
I wasn't going to say anything. You guys calling me out now, though. I use Samco fabrication and stuff.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's all right.
I mean,
support local.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sam's a good dude.
He's a great guy. Yeah. And my good longtime buddy Austin is one of the maid fabricators there.
Hell
So
Wait, Tischler?
no, Austin Hall.
Oh,
Yeah. So
because
he's
Tischler works at the car wash now.
oh,
Oh,
Yeah, he's like runs a crew fixing car washes, but it's a good. Do you know Austin Tischler?
I know the name.
He's fabbed up. He's worked on everything, like road cars, race cars, exhaust.
He's a great
like,
fabricator.
He is an amazing. I met him because he was flying to Chicago on day rates to go do fab at Fall Line from Reno, and he was camping out on Skeeter's couch. And I'm like, who's this dude? There's a dude on your couch. He's like, oh, that's Austin Tischler from Reno. He came out to work a week at Fall Line for some insane amount of money. But now he works at the car wash.
Yeah. That's cool.
there's probably a lot of fabrication in a car wash, honestly.
Fixing tracks and
Yeah.
new installs, there's a lot of fab.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure people bust that stuff up
Yeah,
every day.
it's crazy.
So back to your
I'm
company.
going to get that fly.
Dude, he's
He
been
is
bugging
pissing-
you
he's
need a
pissing
salt
me off.
gun or
Yeah,
something.
you need a salt gun.
Yeah.
those
Yeah,
things
one
are
of
the
I had
best.
one, but it got water in it.
Yeah.
Took a
Yeah, that
shit.
probably didn't work right. The salt went away.
That's one of my favorite. One of my favorite
Yeah.
guns is the salt gun.
The
Yeah.
bug,
Oh,
bug
yeah.
assault.
I think that was
Yeah.
my wife's favorite present one year. I gave
Yeah.
that to her, and she thought that was the best.
they
thing
work.
ever.
They're legit.
They are.
When you have horses,
Oh.
it's like you have to have them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, back to your company. Is it just you, or do you have other employees now, or what?
So long term, when we sold our house, bought a different house, and we kind of bought it because it had a detached shop,
oh, okay.
and we kind of ran the business out of there. I did just one man band, and then just kind of continued to plug away and grow it. And we bought and we kind of upsized again as far as shop space goes, where we're at currently. And then my wife started working for me full time. Well,
Oh, okay.
For me, with me.
Right.
Ultimately she's the boss, right? But,
Yeah.
so yeah, I like to tease her and say I write her paycheck, but she's the boss. So, so that's kind of where we're at now. And we're like to the point where we get some help here and there, but it's mainly just me and her. So she does a lot of the monotonous stuff. Like we make tail lights. That's like one of our number one products, or has been for the last few years, is making tail lights for the Elise and the Exige and the Evora. And we're on like our, fourth version of those now. And we've just continued to improve them. But she makes like all the wiring harnesses and pins the harnesses. And
Okay.
like anything from that to bagging hardware and tagging products and checking stuff in when it comes in from vendors and stuff like that. So she's, without her help, it would just be, I'd be buried, absolutely buried. It would be, probably 16-hour days. I'd have zero life outside of work. It's already tough enough as it is. And so that's helped out a lot. So she quit. She was helping me like part-time for years. And then she was able to quit her job, and we just do it full-time now. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
So with that being your job now, the Lotus thing was probably a little bit of your pastime / hobby.
Yeah.
Is it still, now that you have to do it every day, or?
Yeah, so it is funny, like when you work on something every day. I think like when I worked at the motorcycle shop years ago, I was like super into dirt bikes,
Right.
racing bikes, going out and riding, and then it kind of like when you're around them every day, the novelty wears off, I think.
Right.
And it has sometimes with the Lotus stuff, but for the most part, I still get excited to go jump in the car and go drive it go to Cars and Coffee, or go drive canyons with buddies, or
Right.
go to the track. So I still get excited. There's times where I'm like kind of over it, and I think it's probably like maybe I have a customer that's a pain in the butt,
Right.
something like that, and I'm just like, just be done with it. I don't want to even think about Lotuses or cars right now.
Right.
So, but for the most part, I still have a lot of fun.
That's really cool. That's good, because it's really hard to find that balance between the two.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Because I used to like really enjoy wrenching on stuff, and now I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'll just have something new that I don't have to fucking fix, and I just get in it, and it works.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. It remind my friend, my fabricator buddy Austin. Same thing. He's like a super good cook.
Right.
And he cooks for us on the weekends. Sometimes we'll have little get-togethers. And I'm like, dude, you should do like a food truck or something. He's like, nope. And I think he knows, like, if he does something to that extent, he's like, nope, I'll get burned out. I'll hate cooking.
Right.
Or, same thing. I'm sure he gets burned out in fabricating. Same thing with any of us, really. I'm sure you get, like,
I don't have a project car. I don't have a project engine.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Like, I thought about it. Well, maybe someday I'll build this combo because that might be cool.
Yeah, but you have 100 of them going at your shop.
Yeah, I don't want to do car stuff. It's this week. I was really looking forward to putting some mud up on the shower walls and doing some waterproof membrane, like mindless, easy work.
That's what I've been doing. Like, I've been landscaping my whole outside. I've just been having a blast with my kids, like, doing it, and it has nothing to do with what I do at work. Yep. And I've just been having I'm putting it in drip line, and I'm like, give me a T, and they're like, I'm like, I need a hand, and we're just having a good time doing that because it has nothing to do with what I do.
And you're teaching them how.
And
to
I'm
do it.
Yeah, and
they're gonna know how it works when you're done.
Yeah. And they get to run equipment. Like my 8-year-old, he's pretty good on a skid steer. He's working on the excavator. Like it's fun because we get to do stuff together, and it doesn't have anything to do with what I do for work. Because for a long time, all I did was paperwork, and now that Drew's wife works there, she does all my paperwork, which is great because my paperwork was fucked up. Like, the IRS is not a fan of me. And so she's been fixing that, but it makes me work in the shop a little bit more, and it just, like, I still really enjoy it. Like, I have a good time at work, but it makes me not want to do it on my days off. Like, my wife's car, she has a new car, like, I don't want to work on it. Like, I just want to do other stuff.
Yeah.
So it's cool that you still have that passion for it because that's a hard thing to come by.
Yeah, I don't, like my truck, I'm not like into like doing oil changes on my truck.
Right.
I take it to the dealer.
Hell yeah.
But the car, I'm like, nobody's touching that thing. I'll change the oil on it and I'll do the brakes and stuff. I'll do everything on the car. But yeah, still the passion for it's still there. And then I think when we come up with new products, or like the Amira came out this year, it kind of reignites it a little bit.
I can see that for sure. Yeah, because it's something that you also get to enjoy doing.
Yeah, the business buys the car, right? But I get to go out and test the products or go drive the car. Like we did a 1,200-mile road trip like a couple months ago with some buddies, and stuff like that is just, you can't beat it.
Right. Absolutely.
So and it's it's a business expense per se at the end of the day.
Hold on.
Back at it.
Yeah.
So do you SCCA club race anything?
Yeah, I've done some like local SCCA club race stuff, a couple Lemons races years ago, which was a
lot of fun? It seems like it'd be a lot of fun.
It was wild.
Yeah.
It was wild. I mean, we did, first one I did was a stint in a car at Sonoma, and there was, which is, I forget the total mileage for the track. It's not that big, but they had, I think 130, 140 cars on the track.
Damn.
It was wild. I mean, your head's on a swivel the whole time. Oh, for
sure.
Because you're either blocking or you're just running it in on somebody in the corner. Almost every corner, like to get breathing room, especially at Sonoma with that many cars on the track it was wild.
Were you in the Lotus then, or
no?
were you driving?
That was in a friend's BMW. What are the little early 90s E36 4-cylinder cars.
Oh,
okay. I forget the model number on it, but we'd go 4+ hours in the thing at a time. Wow. Because
that's a long fucking time.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. So that day, I think I finished the day that it was like a Saturday Sunday event, and I finished the Saturday. So you're pitting. And then we did a driver change just midway through. You have to do at least one driver change, and it was just in there, and just the intensity and having your adrenaline that high for like that long was it was wild. For sure. Bet. Some of the craziest, you're totally not racing the line on the track. You're just blocking people and running it in on people, and then here come we're in like one of the slower cars on the track, and here comes a Crown Vic or something. And it's like, do not get run over by this guy and just let him by, and it's just all about spinning laps and trying to keep incidents to a minimum. Then my last one I did was at Thunder Hill, and I was unfortunately in the car when it blew up, and it threw a rod through the case. So,
perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't good. But I think that car had a lot of a lot of Lemons miles, a lot of Lemons racing on it. So, you know, it was due.
Time.
Yeah. Yeah. She lived her life.
Yeah. It's a good way to end it.
Yeah.
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 What's the car budget? Is it $2,000?
I don't know.
Unlimited safety.
Yeah, unlimited safety.
I think they've kind of bounced around on budget. And then there's like Lucky Dog and a couple others now that do the same kind of thing. Like Lemons was wild. You could pretty much, you had like A, B, C class, and A is the fastest cars, C was the slowest. But guys in the A group, depending on kind of how you finished the last race, so if you were like a return guy and you did really well the last race, they'd penalize you in laps.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then they'd check the car and they do like the silliest safety, or not safety, but silliest like speed inspections. They'd check and see if you had like coilovers on the car just by like jumping up and down on it. They wouldn't like jack up the car and like look for
Right.
coilovers. They would jump up and down and be like, this suspension's pretty stiff. I think it's got springs or suspension on it. That's you're 2 laps or 3 laps. Or they'd look at the engine bay and they'd be like, that looks like 400 horsepower. Yeah, that's another 5 laps. So some of these guys, they would start 10, 15, 20 or more laps behind like the C group.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'd go to the inspection thing, and sometimes guys would be bribing them, and then it's just all kinds of crazy stuff's happening at the Lemons ones. I haven't done one of the Lucky Dog ones. I've heard that they're a little bit more, by the book and a little more organized. So. I'd like to do one of those one day, but just too many irons in the fire.
Right.
So.
It would be fun though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It would be a blast. Just go out there. I mean, and then I think doing more driver changes would be a must.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do 4 hours in a
4
car.
hours is a long fucking time.
Yeah. Even like going out and doing open track days, 30 minutes in a car is a good amount of time.
Right.
The endurance type racing is it's a whole nother level.
Yeah.
So.
And in a shitty car.
Yeah. And no matter how well that
Yeah.
old BMW is set up, it's still not,
Right.
it's not a great good handling car, but
Right.
just dogs.
That's a lot of work being in there, just keeping it on the track.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, I watched a video of, about a team that had this Porsche Boxster. They said they got it for $2,000. It had a blown head gasket, so they put a freaking irrigation sprayer tank in the trunk, and the car was leaking water externally. But when they started the race, you couldn't get this thing around a corner without the ass end pitching around because of how much weight was in the back. And then they made it like 5 or 6 hours, and then they like pull it in. You're just watering down the track everywhere. But they fixed it and they brought it back the next year, and I was still like, how did you get this Porsche in Lemons?
There's the wildest cars ever. Like, I mean, you name it, from little Hondas to like, say, Crown Vics, Mustangs. There's guys that have total cheater cars too. And, they might be buddy with the guy that's running the deal. So he's like, puts him down 5 laps and he like ends up just killing everybody. He comes by you on the front straight at Thunder Hill and you're, in your little 100 horsepower car, your top speed on the front straight might be 90, 95 or something. And he comes blowing by you with like a 30, 40 mile an hour speed differential. So the safety aspect of it is slightly out the window, but they're like, any dollar amount for a cage, for a race seat, fire system.
That's all fine.
That's all
Harness,
unlimited.
brakes,
Yeah. So anything safety related, which was cool. So you could, you feel, you don't
Little
feel
bit
like
better.
You don't feel like you're going to get totally pummeled if you get hit.
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
Especially 90s BMW. I don't know. That was a best safety era.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm
I'm just like, do I fit in it? Okay, cool. I'll drive it.
I'll drive it.
Yeah.
So
Just hope no one
with that being
runs you
said, have you moved on from Lotus at all? I mean, have you explored other avenues of cars?
Yeah, we kind of branched out a little bit with doing some carbon stuff for GR Corollas.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Which was really cool. That I bought one of those right when as soon as I could. They came out a year and a half ago or so in the U.S., and it was all I could do to find one because I wasn't on a list, and it was kind of a wild hair kind of thing. Like, let's get one of these and make parts for it. And to do it right, you really kind of got to have the car to test fit it, and relying on people, and especially like kind of niche cars like that. you can only go so far with like relying on a customer to send them a part, and it's still bugging it.
It's fine. I made it too long.
So you can only go so far without relying on other people.
Able to test it yourself.
Yeah. So I found one and bought it, drove it back from Vegas, and we ordered a bunch of extra stuff, a bunch of extra parts like vents, and we did like hoods and a bunch of other like carbon wings and stuff. Ordered a bunch of parts through Dolan Toyota, and then send them and get them basically remade out of carbon at the carbon shop. They send them there, pay for the molds, get the molds made. So we still have a separate website for that. It's kind of like an on the side kind of thing. We carry just a small inventory of parts for that. I sold the car eventually, kind of just made like all the exterior stuff that I wanted to make. And then kind of some of the big players got into it, like Cybon and a bunch of the carbon fiber parts that, much more popular. And I found it's really hard to break into something like that. Like guys that are buying those are coming from Subarus and wherever. So they already kind of have their vendors that they're buying stuff from. So for them to figure out like, oh, who's, or convince them or.
Right. Cause that whole business model has to start over again.
Yeah. You're kind of starting from scratch. You don't have that good name or, established already like I do with the Lotus stuff. So,
and there's probably not a huge crossover between, Lotus and that.
I think a couple guys maybe were like, oh, I have a Lotus also, or I had a Lotus and I recognize your name from that.
Right.
Or they would recognize my name on one of the Facebook pages or something like that. So there's like not really any crossover you could rely on. And then, just breaking into that community, I guess you would call it, is really tough. So we still sell a decent amount of the parts for those. And I think we'll just continue to do so, just carry kind of a limited inventory. And I don't think it maybe lived up to expectations for me. But everything like molds and the parts all paid for themselves. So at the end of the day, I'm good with it.
Right. So is that an avenue you want to go down as like starting to branch out into things, or are you pretty stuck on the Lotus thing?
I kind of say I'm just probably going to just ride it out with Lotus stuff. As far as like a make model or, like a mark of cars. So I think I'll probably just stick with Lotus. It's what I know. We got the name established. We've built up good clientele. We have a good name. We're kind of one of the good go-tos. And then we've recently, like earlier this year, we're one of the main Tillet race seats importers.
Oh, okay.
We always sold, or not always, for 3 or 4 years now, we sold Tillet race seats, which they're killer seats, and they're really Lotus friendly because, as you can imagine, you can't fit.
Not a lot of room in there.
Yeah, not a lot of room. So you gotta have a specific seat. And these guys, they're the owner of that company. They're UK based. He's a really big Lotus guy. So he started with karting seats back in the day. Makes Lotus seats, and we've been selling them for years. Well, the importer that we were buying through, they were set up, and we were one of their very first wholesale accounts. Right when they started importing the seats, they folded up earlier this year. So then it was like, I'm sorry, but hey, this is maybe an opportunity too.
Yeah, so, I mean, when opportunity knocks.
Yeah. I'm like, I talked to the owner of that company, and he was like, oh yeah, it's not like we're hard up or anything. It's like a family move. They're moving overseas.
Right.
And he's like, it was a decision between me and my wife. We're just like going to close up the business. And he's like, I would love for you to basically take over where we're leaving off, not take over my business, but take over like the import and being the salespeople for these seats. So yeah, that's really kind of taken off.
Is there a lot that goes into importing stuff like? Because I've never been around any of that, like trying to get stuff imported.
They're just the shipping end of things, like certain things like that. They don't seem to be too bad because you have a lot of paperwork to go through.
Right.
But as long as you have I would say I have a really, really good customs broker that I use here in town. So any big shipments that come out from overseas, the paperwork goes to her, and she pretty much just handles it.
Gotcha.
So
you're bringing in a quantity at a time. You're not trying to bring in one or two here and there.
Yeah. It's pretty rare that we bring in like one or two. Like a couple weeks ago, we brought in like 2 or 4 seats and a few sets of brackets that we really needed.
Right.
But for the most part, we're doing like pallets.
Okay.
Pallet quantities at a time. So, so we like took over the inventory from the company that shut down, and then we kind of were doing monthly or bi-monthly imports with the seats now. So, and the word's starting to spread. I mean, like, it was real slow at first, and the wife is always, the first critic on things. She's like, I don't know, you spent all this money on this inventory for these seats, and like, they don't seem to be selling real fast. I'm like, it's like, if you build it, they will come kind of thing,
yep.
So it's like, you just got to get the word out. And then we got a good setup with the, some of the accounts that were set up with that company that shut down. So now that's kind of taken off with them. Like, we've got numerous seat orders this week from them, just because they know that we're basically the biggest importer and have the biggest inventory for them now. So,
and that means something.
Yeah. It's all a big convenience thing with car guys. It's, most of them understand, like, you're buying parts for a Lotus.
Right.
But when you're buying seats, that are going in a Camaro, a Vet, a Miata, whatever, they're like, yeah, you don't have it, I'm going to find it somewhere else. So, it's
especially in the day of Amazon, where people are so expected to get something the next day or 2 days. It's hard to be like, no, you got to wait a couple weeks to get this thing. Like, they're just gonna be like, well, I'll find somebody who can get it tomorrow or before the weekend.
Yeah, that's always been a struggle. Like, as a growing business, trying to balance that inventory number with like sale. You can't, with the Lotus stuff, you have like no sales expectations. Things sell so randomly. You'll have, I don't know, a battery kit on the shelf for months, two or three of them on the shelf, or 5 of them on the shelf, and then out of nowhere, all of them sell in like a matter of a week.
Right.
And it's like, oh shit, now I gotta get a bunch of brackets made, or then you're kind of scrambling to re-up your inventory. So it's this constant thing, and it's like, you don't want to stock too many and have a bunch of dollars sitting on the shelf, but at the same time you want to have them available. So that's always been a really tough balancing act.
Do you guys use like a program or anything for that, or is it just you guys keeping inventory of it?
It's all kept track of on our through our website. The back end is all done on Shopify.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's just kind of in the head, like, I know this. I know these sell. These are a really common part, really popular part. We're gonna ramp up some inventory on these, or you kind of know going into winter or going into spring.
Right.
It used to just be like, when I first started, people were really working on cars in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
But now I don't know what it is. Kind of since COVID, really, there is no busy season. It's just been pretty constant for us. So it's been a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then it's always that struggle, like, and I used to not have to carry a whole bunch of inventory through the summer. And we would ramp up going into the winter because that was the busy time. But now it's not. It's just, constantly trying to figure out how many of each thing to have. So
are you doing like aftermarket engine parts as well, or how does that go? I mean,
back to, there's, I'd say 4 main vendors for Lotus stuff in the U.S. and then, a bunch throughout the rest of the world. But there is, I think all 4 of us kind of specialize in our own little area. Okay. There's some overlap on certain things between the different vendors, and I think it's kind of almost an unspoken thing. It's like, I know, like, one of the other vendors is BOE Fabrication, and they're really big into like race-proven stuff with race engines. They develop supercharger kits. They're building long blocks. They're doing, I don't know that they do the machine work themselves, but they have a really good history with building high horsepower stuff as far as Lotuses go. So early on, I made friends with those guys, know the owners, we all talk to each other, and we know, like, I don't know, we just don't step on each other's toes as far as like certain products. I'm like, I know that I'm not gonna start offering race engines for these cars and be like, I'm the cream of the crop. You don't worry about those guys. And I wouldn't do that to them either. I wouldn't, we try to all work together.
Right.
So so I don't really do any engine stuff. We do like exhausts, especially last year. This year we really got into doing our own line of exhausts. Okay. I found that it's just more better dollars at the end of the day, as well as you can develop stuff that you works, and you can rely, you have to rely on yourself as far as design stuff and warranty stuff. That's kind of a struggle. Sometimes reselling parts is relying on that company to stand behind the product.
Right.
And sometimes that doesn't always happen. So
I've been there.
And then you're the middleman, and the customer's like,
But
like,
you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
Because they bought it from you.
Yeah,
Yep.
totally. So then the dollar, sometimes there's been occasions where dollars have come out of my pocket, and it becomes really awkward between me and the manufacturer, or me and the vendor. If it's a manufacturer, then sure, I press them to like, hey, you need to warranty this. Here's why. But sometimes, like a clutch kit, most recently a clutch kit, the guy installed it, said, nope, this doesn't work. And I said, well, this is kind of the warranty's kind of carried out between you and the company, the manufacturer. I said, I'm here for support. So they send I have them send the clutch kit to the manufacturer. They inspect it and they say, no, nothing's wrong. But then he's like, no, it didn't work. It didn't fit right. And I'm like, so, what do?
Right.
You retain the customer, you refund his money, you eat the money on my end because the manufacturer is not going to do it. They're like, nope, we inspected it. It's fine.
Yeah.
So that's always, there's always the little struggles like that. But
that's what we just actually, that's what I was doing today. But we had a customer, my best customer. They bought an engine from one of our vendors. Quentin was on here. So they bought an engine from Quentin. He got it from a cat dealer, and then I installed the engine. The engine had a 1 year, 2,000 hour warranty. It had 743 hours on it, and it was over warranty by 1 week. And it piggybacked a bearing, locked up.
Oh.
So we tore it down. We took it to our shop. We took it out and pulled the pan off, saw that piggybacked bearing. And so we called Quentin. Quentin called the cat dealer, and the cat dealer said, no, you're out of warranty. And he's like, we're 6 days past the warranty, and the engine has not even half of what the warranty of the hours is. And they're like, yeah, we'll figure it out. So it takes weeks for them. Meanwhile, customer has a loader that doesn't work because it has no engine in it. So Quentin, we finally got the cat dealer to agree to give us new components for the engine. So he had to buy a couple of the components, Quentin did. I forfeited all the labor for the engine. And then, so we built the engine for free, basically, and then installed it. And that's what we were doing today. We were doing startups, so we're doing pressures and samples and all that shit. But yeah, this turned into a 2-month process. Whereas the customer, he's like, hey, dude, I spent $50,000 on this engine, and it didn't make it a year. Like, let's get this fucking thing going. Granted, one of my best customers, they don't care about anything. Just get it right. Doesn't matter the time, nothing. So it was good, but all the customers aren't always that good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get guys that are the nicest, coolest, easygoing guys that are whatever
Right.
it takes. I understand.
Right.
Like, yeah, these guys are sticking it to us. We can't.
Right.
We can't get the warranty covered. But yeah, there's the opposite.
We got another one of those right now. You remember how I told you I don't work on backhoes because everybody who owns a backhoe is a fucking asshole? I'm dealing with that right now.
Hey, my dad owns a backhoe.
There you go. I'm not working on it. Yeah, no, it just, some people are just assholes. And then you get good customers. We have good and bad, but backhoes, if it's a company that owns a backhoe, we'll work on it. If it's a homeowner, I should have said no. I didn't, and here the fuck we are.
So I'll get your number out.
Okay, yeah,
so
perfect.
He can call you.
Yeah. I love doing shit for free, so just let me know, dude. Yeah, we'll come take a look at it.
Yeah, I met this guy who runs a charity.
Yeah.
He runs a charity.
We have a backhoe charity over here. Yeah.
Said he loves working on backhoes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit! I like the term piggyback to bearing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's when one bearing shell is on top of the other bearing shell.
Yeah.
Is that an oil supply issue?
Isn't that a Subaru thing too?
Ask Drew about that.
I don't know. When the Subarus come in, the bearing is missing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just the rod riding around on the rod riding around on the crankshaft because they kept driving it.
Oh, good. Yeah, cats will usually take the bottom bearing and put it into the top like a third of the way, and then it locks up.
How's it come loose? That much clearance?
Yeah, that much clearance.
Yeah, I guess.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Then there must not be much of a tang on there to hold it in place. I don't know.
No, it just has 2 little dowels on each end, and once that dowel's gone, she goes around.
What's the rod bearing clearance on the engine like that? Do you know?
Like 8 thou. Yeah.
That seems like a lot.
Yeah.
That does seem like a lot.
Yeah. They kind of just fit
What
there.
is it? What is it on like an LS
It's
motor?
probably like a 6-inch journal, 7-inch journal.
I don't know.
How big's a rod journal? That big?
Yeah. Probably 6-inch, 7-inch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 8's not out of the
Yeah.
woodwork.
And you got to remember, it only does fucking 1,900 RPM.
Yeah.
She's just cruising around in there.
It's just clunking
She's just
along.
hanging around in there. Yeah.
LS would be a lot less. It would be like 2 from the factory. 1.2 is like the low of the spec, and then 2. Like if it's gonna make some power, 2 to 3 at least.
Give it room to grow.
Yeah.
Move around. So we have some listener comments.
Oh, we do. What do we got?
They want something technical. I don't know how technical you
is. This
get.
Ross again?
No.
It was just more of a survey type.
No, it was
okay.
a survey,
Yeah.
and they said technical. So I'm going to put back out there to the listener, if you want a technical, instructional, anything, just send us an email.
What you're actually asking.
Yeah, we'd love to hear. We can get technical about anything. Strippers, the Constitution.
Why you're spinning a bearing.
How you're spinning a bearing. How you make a mold off a part.
Yeah, that is actually...
That's technical.
Yeah. So is there a place in Reno that actually does like molds like that, or are you going somewhere else for that?
I farm it all out. There is a really cool place that does... they do a lot of carbon stuff. Truck House in Reno. I don't know if you guys have heard of those guys.
That, yeah.
Awesome. We do a bunch of work for them.
They do some awesome stuff. They make these cab over truck conversions.
But they're all carbon fiber.
And they're all carbon fiber, super lightweight.
And they'll do molds there?
I don't think they'll do it. I think they're so busy they're not doing any outside work. Right. But it's just impressive to see. I've seen some of the finished product come out of there, and it's insane.
Because that's definitely something I've always like. How the fuck do they do this? Like it just comes out as a shape.
Yeah. Well, so most of my stuff's all. I mean, some of the new stuff is all made from scratch or designed from scratch. Like we're making some aero stuff, splitters and side skirts and spoilers for the Amira, and we started with a 3D scan of the whole, the whole car, or the areas that we want to build, and then develop it in CAD from there. So they'll, just build off of the car basically. Right. So I worked with the designer at the carbon shop, and they do that all the time. He does, they do parts for BMWs and various other makes. And I just kind of tell him like, hey, want something this style, and then he sent me the 3D scans, and I came up with some stuff. So I do draw up a lot of parts in SolidWorks.
Oh, okay.
So come up with some of that, and then he'll fine tune it. He's he does it for a living every day. Right. So I'm more of a, I guess I'm like a nuts and bolts kind of guy. Like I can make a part, and then I'll go through 3 or 4 iterations, and then I'm like, okay, this is good. Whereas he's like, precise the first time. So we do some parts like that, but a vast majority of what we sell, like carbon fiber stuff, is all repop. So you send them an OEM part, and they'll remake it.
Oh, okay.
So in carbon. Yeah, that's been the majority of the carbon stuff that we sell is like that.
Gotcha.
And that's, more, you save a little bit of weight. Not a lot with a lot of the plastic parts on modern cars, right? But it's more aesthetic stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah,
isn't there a big carbon guy that's down in like the Minden area that does a lot of that stuff?
Yeah, I talked with them years ago, and they make like carbon fiber surfboards.
Yeah, they're doing like some really big.
I forget the name of that place, but yeah, they make some.
I saw something one time that they do like a I don't know, carbon mold workshop type thing, and I always thought that would be kind of cool to go to and just to try to make something one time,
Yeah, just a little DIY type deal. So,
yeah, I kind of a food saver.
A what? Like Ziplocs?
Just a big vacuum seal. Yeah, I mean that's really all you need, I guess.
Right.
You just need
developing the molds
saver.
and just knowing the tips and tricks on it would be kind of neat to learn.
I did do I mentioned the taillights earlier. So initially we started with dissecting an OEM taillight and like installing new components in it, because the LED taillights that come on Lotuses from 06 and newer are all individual LED pixels. So you can see all of those when you're behind the car, and it's just, they use the same exact taillight from 2006 all the way to 2021.
Oh, shit.
On the cars. So it was great for me because I could come up with aftermarket lights that people like
and it fits a ton of shit.
Yeah, it fits all these cars, and it works so much better. And we still have a wait list for the taillights to this day. Yeah, with the latest version that came out last year, I've just constantly, I can only build them so fast. Right. So we get all the components and whatnot. But early on, we had a aluminum mold made of the shell of the taillight lens, and then I used to thermoform acrylic lenses, and I was making, so we were making basically all of the major components in house, And it took so much time. And then, one guy gets a light and his same thing. His buddy likes them. And then you got 5 more guys wanting these lights. And it's like, man, I can only make
can't build these that fast.
Yeah, I can only make like 30 lenses a day, or whatever. It takes so much time. And then it like takes away from other stuff. And it's like, oh, you want to do it. And then it gets, you get monotonous. But when the whole COVID thing happened, it was kind of a blessing in disguise, because if you remember, every retail business had to have like a clear barrier.
Right.
So my taillight lens material is all red, and I would get a specific red through Trip Plastics in town.
Yep.
They would cut my 12 by 12 squares that I'd make each lens out of. And they so then all of a sudden they're like, we can't get any more red, because all of the manufacturers all switched to nothing but clear.
Oh,
they're obviously, they're going to go where the money's at.
Right.
So they're like, we can't get any red. And they're like, we have no ETA. And they're like, we'll call around, and they'd scrounge up some red here and there. And then we got some material that wouldn't thermoform right. And it was just like, and then you got people waiting. It's just like this huge nightmare. So then I'm like, okay, it's time to figure this out. So then we, I had the lens designed in CAD. So then I put it on, I think, mfg.com, and figured out a vendor, and then now we order 1,000 or 2,000 lenses at a time.
No shit, huh?
So,
and it's that much less for you to do.
The lenses show up. They're cut. They're filed. They're ready to go.
Right.
My another tedious job that my wife does is she adheres a center portion to the lens, so it's like dark. It's like a medium to dark red, and then the center of it is like a dark smoke.
Oh, okay.
And that's like where the turn signal or the reverse lights sit behind it.
Right.
So she's precisely gluing these lenses, and she'll do 100 of them at a time.
Oh.
So, it's like I used to do all of that, and then it's like, hey, and she cranks them out, and she just sits, she's in her spot watching shows on her iPhone, just cranking out these lenses all day. And just like sometimes I feel bad, and she's like, no, it's whatever, and she just handles it.
She's like, work is work.
Yeah, work is work. And then like she said she was a dental hygienist, and I'm like, oh, would you rather be scraping on teeth or
digging in teeth
or gluing lenses? She's like, I'd much rather be gluing these lenses than scraping teeth.
Perfect.
Heck yeah.
So once we did that, we figured out, and that brought the cost down drastically.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, absolutely.
So we would, time the materials alone. It was, I forget, it was a pretty drastic number for these lenses, and we brought the material cost way down, time way down, so we could produce them a lot faster, and then made the product a lot better too. Started doing injection molding. We used to 3D print some of the components. And then I have multiple printers going to make these internal components for these lights, but now everything's injection molded. The lens,
so you just
the
get
housing.
a kit, and you're just assembling kits.
Basically, I solder the boards. We have special LED boards that were designed specifically for the lights that would do multiple functions. So she makes the harness. We'll stuff it through the base housing, solder it to the board. And then do like a final assembly with a little projector piece in there and whatnot. So it's been kind of years in the making. It's like thinking back, it's like, man, why didn't I just do this from the start? But again, paying for injection molding off the get-go.
You gotta hustle.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's another dollar. It's another commitment. We can make this at home.
Yeah.
Well, and especially the newer the car, I'm sure it's not just like a bulb. Like you said, you have a whole computer board that you have to solder onto and stuff. Like you're not just, we'll make a couple holes for some bulbs and we got taillights now. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, it's I forget. There's, I think, over 150 LEDs per board.
Yeah, that's wild.
So
for a taillight,
for one single light.
Yeah,
and then times 4.
Yeah.
So there's a lot into it.
Right.
So and it's just getting aligned with the right people to help design the stuff or help manufacture the stuff that's the biggest thing. And now that I've done it with a bunch of different products, I'm like, okay, now I kind of know, like if I want to make something new, if somebody suggests something, I'm like, oh, that's a good idea, I can kind of use that base and say, all right, I'm not going to do this the hard way from the get-go.
Right.
We're going to go after it and put the work in somebody else's.
Just 3D print the whole prototype, and we'll wire it and see if it looks good.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. I just did that. I have some short shift kits getting machined right now, and I 3D printed, 100% infill to make it sturdy. Did a little short shift deal, test fit. Okay, that one fits perfect. And then we got the throw dialed in, and then I actually was able to run it on the car. I can't run it too long because it'll get too hot, but actually test it on the car,
right,
shifting and whatnot.
And then send that drawing out.
Yep. So then I sent that to the machine shop that we use, and they're making whatever, couple hundred kits right now. So
that's cool.
That's pretty cool. The R&D aspect is really cool. That you get to do it on your own stuff and like figure it out.
Yeah, and my wife always says I should have probably been an engineer of some sort, just because I kind of have that brain.
Right.
But
product development.
Yeah, I can like think of okay, it needs to be this shape, or it needs to have this inside of it to work, and I can picture it in my brain, and then when I can draw it on SolidWorks, I just sit there and draw it from scratch with basic measurements.
Right.
And sometimes I'm not doing it the easy way, but I'll draw it and then I'll 3D print it, test fit it, and then I'm like, we need to tweak this or tweak that to make it fit better or to work better.
Yeah, see, my brain does not work like that. That's that, guys. I send him a picture on a bar napkin. I'm like, I need this to work. Can you please figure it out for me?
I think, Drew's brain works that way.
Yeah, Drew's brain definitely works that way. He's like, what is this going on? I was like, it doesn't matter, dude. Just this is what I need to work.
And then he probably asks for 10 other measurements.
Oh,
right?
for sure, yeah. The best part is
something.
Yeah, the best. He fucking hates it because he's like, well, what is this being made of? I was like, I don't know, less than quarter plate, less than that. And so he bought me a fucking steel gauge so I could just stick it on there and tell him what size. He's like, what size is it? I was like, give me a minute. I got fucking stick your little tool on there, dude. Yeah,
run the steel gauge real quick.
I was like, I don't know, less than quarter, but more than 3/16, somewhere in that realm. Yeah.
Yeah,
but it works out good. Yeah, but his brain, that's how his brain works. He's like, what does this need to do? And I'll tell him, and fucking a day later, he's like, well, try this out.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're good, thanks.
Yeah.
I had an idea, I just didn't know how to make it work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know TKO Motorsports?
Yeah. Not really well. I've been in there though, and I know Dave on like a first name basis.
Okay.
Yeah. Dave Traytel.
Because I think they can digitize a whole fucking car now.
It's
really
pretty wild.
Yeah. I haven't been to the new shop since
Well, have you seen all the CNC machines they've been adding lately?
I've seen just
it's
videos.
Unreal. I want to go in there. It's been 5 years since I've been in there, probably.
Yeah.
And it's changed a lot. Since
Same
then.
here.
Should schedule us a tour.
Yeah.
A group tour.
That'd be awesome.
A group tour.
Because he likes to do private stuff. He's like,
he does. I know. It pisses me off.
I went over to Tommy Klaus's shop, and they're going to give me VIP tickets to the Historics this weekend. I'm like, I haven't even met this guy yet.
Yeah.
Like,
Drew's like, guess what I did this weekend? I was like, oh, that sounds fun. I hate that. I didn't want to go. Yeah.
Thanks for calling us up. But we should do, because he could digitize. You could roll in a whole car.
Yep.
And he could digitize it, and then you could
do a whole body kit or whatever.
You could draw a pre-cut wrap for the whole car off of that.
I bought
make it fit.
3D scanner earlier this year. I'm like, I was gung ho. I'm like, and it was before the Amira came out, and I was like, all right, I'm going to be geared up and ready. As soon as this car shows up, I'm going to 3D scan it. I'm going to, I'm on it. And then
that's an art form in itself.
Yeah, God, it came down to it, and I started
the rendering looks like a cartoon car.
Oh God, it's just like this mangled spider web, And
you're like the fucking front end is not bigger than the back end.
Yeah,
we were not far away enough in your data points, and oh my God,
I didn't, and I guess kind of. There's still a little bit of a cheapskate in me. I'm like, I don't want to spend big bucks on a 3D scanner, but I want a decent one. So I think it was $1,500 or $2,000, something like that. So it wasn't cheap. So I felt obligated to try to use it. But then when I started trying to use it, and I'm like scanning some random objects, I'm just like, ready to pull my hair out, and it's like, oh my God, like you said, it's an art form.
It just produces a STL file, right? When you're doing that.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So wire mesh.
trying to get it all, different curvature of everything, and then you can spin the part, and then you can piece it back together. It was just like, oh God, this is way more time involved than I have right now. Mm-hmm. So, and it's we're cranking, doing everything else, and I'm just like, I can't spend the time that's needed to learn another thing to do this. So then we're gonna do some adjustable upper control arms for the Amiras and the Evoras pretty soon here, and I think we're going to. I've already contacted a guy that just that's like what he does. You know,
is 3D scan.
3D scan.
Right.
Yeah, he went over and scanned my friend Austin's Toyota pickup, and he's building basically a not a pre-runner, but like a class 1 truck.
Right.
Whatever. And it's amazing. Like you look at some of the stuff he's designed, and I mean, like I can draw stuff in SolidWorks, but this guy can draw stuff, and he makes stuff work in SolidWorks. It's amazing. Just he's like, oh yeah, how much?
Tyler Thomas?
No, I do know Tyler also. Yeah,
he does some pretty amazing CAD work as well.
Yeah,
he's impressive.
Very talented at it. I worked with him at Speed Tech.
I was gonna. Yeah, that's why I was like, I wonder if it's that guy.
That's how I know him. Yeah, I've known him. So, so I think I'm just gonna kind of leave it to the expert. He's like, oh yeah, it'll be $1,000. We'll give you a full set of drawings, and then I have the capability. I can tweak it if I wanted to. I could 3D print one, test fit it on the car, and then I'll send it to the machine shop. So,
gotcha.
Yeah, rather than try to
that's what we pay.
Learn a whole nother process.
Like we do the same thing with ports on a cylinder head, because there's some stuff you can't get the probe in to digitize, but they can 3D scan it, and so for $1,000, they'll 3D scan it and send you whatever. In that price, I'm supposed to get a cut file too, but I'm still waiting, Andrew. But yeah, they scan the inside of the port, and
the crazy part though is for
way better.
$1,000. If you think about how much time it was going to take you to do it, the $1,000 isn't anything.
Well, we spent $1,000 trying to do it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
and the machine was like,
and it's
I
just
can't
done.
I can't go.
And then sometimes you catch yourself still doing it.
Right.
I
do that.
You'll start spinning your wheels on something.
Yeah.
And you're like, why am I doing this? I should have just spent that money.
Forget.
Yeah.
We do forget that.
I do that shit. Like that. That's a problem I have.
Faster.
It's like, I'll do it. It's not a big deal. And then I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this? I could be doing something else and making money, and here I am not knowing what the fuck I'm doing, and I'm just hanging out
trying to make it work.
And I'm still gonna pay this guy $1,000. Yeah.
So you spent twice what you would have initially.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just in me. I'm like, no, I can do that. It's like, you can't.
Yeah. Just stubbornness.
But
stubbornness. Yeah.
He has a gauge now.
Mm-hmm. I do. Yeah.
It's getting better. Mm-hmm. Some of the drawings are pretty spectacular.
Well, the drawings are still really bad, but at least I can say what size of steel I want them out of. Yeah.
It's always a fun challenge to do that.
Yeah.
Look forward to it.
Yeah. Speaking of porting, there's a company doing a lot of supercharger porting now for Lotuses. That's like they've really got a lot of people on board. It's called Joker's Performance. And I don't know. I don't know. They kind of came out of nowhere. I don't know if somebody just approached them and said, "Hey, can you do the blower on my Evora GT?"
That's crazy.
And fun side fact: the blowers on those are made by Edelbrock.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's not made by Edelbrock.
So it's not made by Edelbrock.
It's made by Eaton.
Yeah. So Edelbrock sells them to Lotus for the engines. Huh. But so this company started doing a bunch of blower porting, and a lot of these guys are, the big goal on them is 500 horsepower, and some of the guys are spinning their wheels a little bit still trying to get 500 horsepower. They don't know
what size are the motors?
3.5 V6.
So do they come? All of them come NA?
7 all day long.
Yeah, no, I was like, they should be in the 6 range pretty easy.
The early ones, the early motors early cars were naturally aspirated.
Yeah.
And then they had a supercharged version with a non-intercooled supercharger on it.
Okay.
And then in 2017, they went to the Edelbrock, the intercooled supercharger. Okay. And that's when they got to the 400 horsepower level. That was the Evora 400.
Right.
And then the Evora GT had a little bump in power.
And how much is it? How much do they weigh?
They're just over 3,000 pounds.
That's still a pretty decent power to weight ratio.
Yeah. It's not breakneck speed or anything, but the handling's great.
Right.
So and they've it was total. Everybody, all the hardcore Lotus guys from early on were like, "What are you doing making a 3,000 pound car?" Because all the earlier ones were all 2,000 pounds.
Oh, were they? Okay. Yeah.
Or Elise and Exige and the older stuff's even lighter. But as regulations come in too, you got to worry about airbags and you got to worry about crash safety and all this other stuff.
Do they have a bunch of creature comforts or no? I've never been around one.
The later as every year or every model, the creature comforts have increased
because that adds a ton of weight too.
Yeah. the Amira, we sell the Tillet seats. I swapped out the factory seats. Each seat assembly in one of those is it's 55 to 60 pounds.
Right.
And then we put the race seats in there, and they're like 20 with the slider, with the brackets.
Right.
So you're saving 80.
But there's
80
no
plus pounds.
heat or AC in the seat now.
No, yeah.
No,
Then
I
you
need
lose
that.
then you lose your power. You got a manual slider.
Right.
You lose your power. You don't have a heated seat. So
But
yeah,
it's a race seat.
yeah. But
I don't know. The AC seat is better than the heated seat.
Agree.
It is.
Yeah.
No,
Ball chiller for sure.
Yeah.
no Lotuses came with AC seats. So
Oh, really?
We're not quite at the Corvette level yet.
Yeah.
No, but that'd be like 500 pounds, 400 pounds in the car.
Yeah.
So I would like to work with a development project with you for a supercharger, because the blower that they're using is not that good, and I know a guy, and they do their own blowers, and it's the biggest blower guy in the country. I think there might be something there.
Yeah. There's
Because we could do I don't think I'd buy a new car. Oh, when did you show up? You're so quiet.
I am.
Yeah. But I'd buy a motor, put it on the dyno, and whatever bullshit computer these things come with from the factory is stupid. We can fix that too.
yeah.
They're all Toyotas, though? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Ever since pretty much every modern, if you will, Lotus brought in since 2005 is all Toyota-based engines.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so the earlier ones had the 4-cylinder 2ZZ out of like a Toyota Celica GT.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then the Evoras have the 3.5 V6, which is, everybody likes to say it's the Camry engine. It's basically the same engine and
Right.
architecture that came out of like the V6 RAV4s.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, I don't know, whatever deal they got worked out with Toyota, it was still running it.
It's a 3.5 V6?
3.5 V6. Yeah.
Oh, I think I just built one of those. What a fucking turd. They'll run forever.
Yeah,
they don't make a ton of power, but they run good.
They're pretty bulletproof, but yeah, they'll
run forever.
Not make a ton of power. I mean,
what is Lotus, like English brand, or what is it?
Yeah.
Oh, they're known for their teeth and engine building capability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fish and chips car. So yeah,
Lightweight's not their thing either.
Oh, really?
Well,
fuck no.
I've never been around any of that shit. Yeah.
No, they build ships.
That is true. They are good at that.
They did the Mini, though, right? And then the Lotus.
The Mini's fine. The Mini's fine.
MG, right?
MG is not fine.
I said small and lightweight. I didn't say
that's small and lightweight. Mini's not British anymore, though.
No,
not anymore. That's BMW.
BMW Group, yeah.
I don't know if that's any better, but
yeah.
They look kind of gay now. I'm going to go get me a 4-door Clubman. Okay, who's going to ride in that thing? Like 4 midgets? I mean, I could
Are
drive
we really
one.
asking what 4 people could ride in that motherfucker? 4 or you?
I could drive, but you guys would have to take an Uber to dinner.
So on that V6 deal, there's 500 horsepower is like all these guys' goal, because it comes with 400. Like 500 horsepower, the car would be perfect. And I used to deal with had some dealings with the guy Alan in Vegas who ran the factory-backed Lotus race team for the U.S. And he's like, we've built a couple of these cars. They raced them in Pirelli World Challenge in Coda and some various other places. Mm-hmm. But they did really well at one of the Coda races in one. And he said, we've built them, run them up to about 530, 540 wheel horsepower. And he said they kind of become undrivable. It's too much power for the chassis. So they detune them to like high 4s, 500 even. And he says that's kind of the sweet spot. So, as far as the engine being capable of more is probably pretty questionable. You'd probably really have to, go crazy with the build. But
it's kind of crazy how the science comes down to that, because there's even like a similar, aspect to that with like the motorcycle, street bike racing.
Oh, for sure.
When they went to the, the cross plane to a flat plane, or no, they went from a flat plane to a cross plane crank in the R1. They actually gained track time, or they lost, they gained speed on the track, but they lost horsepower because of it. But the uneven pulses, you're actually gaining traction on the tire because of it. Because it wasn't a constant pulse on the tire, so it was able to like relax and get a wider tire patch on the asphalt.
Interesting. That's
and that's what it came down to.
It's wild.
That's Drew's brain.
Yeah, I told you. Yeah, I was like, I need this to work. Make it.
If you want to do a supercharger kit or standalone electronics that are worth a shit, I'm your guy. I can help you with that.
Because
the Edelbrock blower is like...
Yeah, they're not great. I mean, the factory Amira GT4 car that Lotus has out now, factory-built race car, cage, the whole nine, they use a different blower on that car than they use on the production cars.
Gotcha.
Just because I think they know that the efficiency level of it's not great. So they have a Harrop, I forget the name, a Harrop blower that they run on it.
That could be a Harrop.
So it's much better, more reliable, whatnot. So yeah, they make pretty good power with the Edelbrock blower, but it's not for.
But as far as drivability, it's probably super fucking fun car to drive around.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. And I mean, 90% of them, 90% of the cars, guys are totally fine with the stock power. They didn't buy it for, it's a lot of the guys that come from other platforms like Vets and Porsches and stuff like that want, they're like, oh my, that car, this car would be perfect if it had that much the power that my Corvette had, or something like that. So that's always a thing that I hear pretty commonly. My last car had better power. This has better handling, but if we could add that power.
It all depends on where you started, for sure.
Yeah, if you don't know any better, or you've never had or driven another one of those cars, then it might be easier. You're more content with that lower power level.
Yeah. So in your stable, do you have cars that have a little more power than the Lotus then, or what's
I've gone through. I mean, I've branched out to other cars for sure. Had a bunch of different stuff, but yeah, I've kind of fallen back to English stuff. I have right now I have the Amira, and then the Lotus 311, which is it was up until they built this electric hypercar thing that they did a few years ago, the fastest Lotus that they'd ever built, which it has the same engine, transmission, supercharger setup. It's 415 horsepower, but it's built on the smaller chassis of like the Exige. So it's 2,075 pounds.
Oh,
that's pretty fucking light. That's probably a fun car.
But if you look at it, it's like a Monza type car. There's no windshield, there's no roof, and it's got like a high roll bar on it.
Right.
So it is 100% hardcore. I mean, it is.
You're driving it.
You're driving it. It does have adjustable traction control and whatnot in it. So, but no stereo, no nothing. It's completely stripped down, full carbon fiber body. So it's like one of the most hardcore Lotuses you could get. There was the 211, which was built, was kind of the same idea, like a Monza style car with the 4-cylinder, and then they did it again with the 311 with the V6.
Gotcha.
So there's only 9 of them in the U.S. Because they made them fully road legal for Europe. There was a road version and a race version, and the road version was more popular. They wanted to make 311 of them, and the word is that they think they only made like 130 just because it didn't quite catch on like they thought it would, I guess.
Right.
Not everybody wants to drive and get bugs in their teeth.
Yeah.
So
I can see that. Yeah.
So they only built like 130 of them, and then they weren't technically federally road legal for the US.
Gotcha.
So they brought them in as track only cars.
Right.
I'm not going to confirm or deny that I drive mine on the street sometimes. Right. So
allegedly,
there's a guy that drives one around Reno sometimes.
Yeah. Aren't you allowed one non-DOT car import in your lifetime? I thought there was a life like
there's a rule about that.
I thought you could. Yeah. I thought you could import one car that wasn't DOT legal.
That'd be news to me, but that sounds like a good rule.
It'd be handy.
Yeah. I mean, sounds like
can
a good
you
rule.
Can you trade out this car? Is maybe the next question.
Yeah.
Like, can I send it back, or can I sell it to somebody else as their one car?
Yeah. And then
I get my one car. Is it one in possession?
Yeah.
Right?
One in possession. Yeah.
One in possession.
Yeah.
We'll have to Google that now, because I thought you could get one.
It can
but you can get one. Your wife can get one. Your dog can get one.
Right.
Yeah. There you go.
See, I really want a 4-door Ranger, so I need to get one from Mexico. That's what I'm looking for. Is 4-door Ranger.
Are they called Rangers in Mexico?
I don't think so. I'm sure they're called something else.
It's like a Lobo or
it is it is like a Lobo or something. I think it might be. Yeah. We went down to Mexico and those things were everywhere. I was like, "Fuck, I need one of these." Yeah.
Ford fucking Ranger.
That's right. Yeah. 4-door Ranger. Put a fifth wheel plate on it. We'll be good. Dude. Yeah.
They're like whistling diesel. Have
you
seen that dude? He's towing all that weight with that Toyota. Oh,
there's a dude in Dayton that has a blue Ford Ranger and he put a dually in the back and he's got fifth wheel hitch in the back, and I see him pull trailers all the time in Dayton.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's got a dump trailer he puts behind it. It's pretty cool. That's what I need.
And poor motor.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, testing those rod bearings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah.
And the last question we have is, if somebody was to look at what you're doing and wanted to do something similar, what would you tell them?
Prepare yourself for some work.
Right.
No, I think doing
and not necessarily in the Lotus space, just in general, like finding that niche that you did.
Yeah, I think if you get into something, especially if you can start with something from a hobby,
right,
and not get burnt out, like we talked about, it's probably one of the big things. But if you can start from a hobby and you can monetize it, and run with it, then I think that's a great start, and then you can go, 0 to wild with it, but putting in the work, and then, everything's a little different, and have different levels of everything involved. But like mine was really, I think I could probably attribute it to customer service.
Right.
So like using a little bit of everything from a background and then customer service, and kind of trying to set yourself apart from other people that are doing similar or the same stuff is probably the big thing.
Yeah.
And then, just like networking, making the friends here and there, and then having the connections. But putting it all together into one thing is probably the most challenging part.
Right.
But yeah, just, that's a lot of work, especially building it from, starting from your shoestring budget on up, just putting in the hours, and then, but still having some balance of regular life. I think it's probably the biggest challenge. I'd work, I'd be in my shop from 8 a.m., 7 a.m. to 7, 8, 9 p.m. some days. The wife's like, are you, she can see it. And like, especially now with her working with me, she's like, she understands, and she's very understanding about it, but she'd be like, remind me like, hey, there's other people here, or we got stuff to do, or there's other things than just doing this. So having that balance is always good too.
Absolutely.
Not forgetting to do that.
Yeah. Not forgetting they have other things besides just a job.
Yeah. And even if you have a job you love, then I guess it's easier to do that.
Right.
Or a job that you're excited about, but you still gotta figure that part out.
Cool. Okay. Well, I think that's a wrap.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming out. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks,
thanks
guys.
for taking time
Greg.
and spending it with us.
Yeah. No problem. Thanks for having me. Good times.
Send in your technical questions.
Yeah.
All right. Night.
All right.